British zoologists, studying the behavior of wild and domestic cats, found that distrust to people is characteristic of most members of the feline family. Over the years, they haven't developed a sense of attachment to humans, unlike dogs, for example. It's amazing that we were able to tame these animals at all. This is what the ancient ancestor of all modern cats looks like. The subspecies of the wild steppe cat, Felis sylvestris libica, is still living in North America. According to American geneticists, about 10,000 years ago, at least 5 females of this subspecies were taken from the wild to houses, and it was them who became the mother of all modern cats.
People tried to breed the most playful cats, those that remained behaving like a kitten. They tried not to breed, of course, those who showed any aggression to their owners for any reason. What I mean is that we cannot say for sure that they did something bad to them. Most likely they were simply thrown out. Unfortunately, back then it was not much of a city environment. There were forests, there were fields, and it was much easier for a cat to survive.
The history of domestication of wild cats began in ancient Egypt. When a man began to grow and store grain, he had to protect his supplies from mice and rats. Then people also paid attention to the wild hunters living near their settlements.
The cat is a hunter by birth. Its hunting is very different. It's not like dog hunting at all. Dogs need to run somewhere, to seek, to chase, yes, to follow the trail. The cat hunts waiting in an ambush. It waits just as long as necessary, after which it makes an incredible effort. If you watch a cat jump in a slow motion, how a cat hunts something, a mouse, doesn't matter what, you can see that it puts in all its strength, which is incredible for such a small creature, sometimes in one single movement.
This kitten is not just playing now, it's mastering hunting skills. In the world of cats, whether or not they catch prey depends on their speed of reaction. People think that cats mostly hunt mice. However, this is not true. They have 3 main types of prey: small rodents, birds, and fish. And for each case, they have a specific hunting tactics.
And these are the movements the kitten is doing with the paw, just like an adult cat will claw a mouse. And here we see some hunting behavior. That's it. The mouse been caught. The kitten's hiding with the mouse. Now we'll try to hunt a bird. Oh, excellent.
The vision of cats is 6 times more acute than humans. They are able to see in infrared and ultraviolet light. Moreover, cats can distinguish up to 25 shades of gray. This peculiar feature of vision can be explained by the coloration of their main prey, mice, whose fur color varies from light gray to dark gray and brownish gray.
It's very important for them to be able to see naturally in the dusk and in almost total darkness. That is when only the stars and the moon shine. It can see in that dimness, which for the human seems to be complete darkness.
The main sensitive organ of cats is the whisker. We're used to calling them whiskers. However, unlike a human mustache, which is a masculine secondary sexual character and has a rather decorative role, the animal's whiskers are important sensitive receptors with a multitude of anatomical and functional features. The vibrissae whiskers stem, its outer part is longer and stiffer than other hair. The root is implanted in a follicle sealed by blood, the so-called sinus, and is surrounded by tens of thousands of nerve endings that catch the slightest vibration movements and transmit information to the brain. Moreover, the brain has a separate area for each whisker.
Cats have a blind zone below their noses. The snout is elongated and they don't see what is here at their mouth at all. Therefore, they cannot pick up anything from the ground with the help of the eyes. They need to feel it with vibrissae. The sensitivity of our palms, it's not even close to the sensitivity of whiskers.
For example, whiskers report a change in the surrounding environment, sensing motions of airflow. That's why it's impossible to come up to a cat unnoticed. Moreover, thanks to the mechanoreceptors, that is, the ends of the sensitive nerves which are located at the base of whiskers, cats are able to determine the distance to an object and to evade obstacles right in time, even in total darkness.
To squeeze through in order to get somewhere, the cat must feel if there's a hole there big enough for it to go through. By the way, this is exactly how a cat determines whether the hole is big enough, using the vibrissae, which is why they almost never get stuck anywhere. Where the cat's head passes, its whole body will pass. It understands this with the help of whiskers, which it, in fact, has on the whole face and on the front paws here along the side.
Some scientists believe that ancestors of modern cats got whiskers as a kind of detectors, even earlier than hair. Whiskers are thicker than normal hairs on the body of animals, and there are individual muscles responsible for their movements. In the mother's womb, kittens first get whiskers formed, and only after that, hair. And later on, it is whiskers that allow cats to maintain the reputation of excellent hunters. However, the hunting instinct of cats has not always benefited humans. Every year, 25 billion birds, mice, voles, and other small rodents are killed with cat's paws. This figure is cited by Western biologists in their studies. And it's not only stray cats who are responsible for this mass extermination. Domestic cats hold their paws to it as well.
They just frighten with their dreadful fury, completely ruthless fury. There are many recorded cases when cats drove away bears, for example, not being afraid of them at all. And there are cases of cats attacking wolves and very big dogs, and cases when cats really won in such, let's say, fights.
But it's not only the reputation of excellent hunters that has brought cats their all over the world fame. This is what is left today from an ancient temple in the city of Bubastis. Egyptians built a sanctuary to honor the cat, which was worshipped there as the goddess of love and beauty.
The cat is mentioned in religious texts, and by the end of the 3rd millennium BC, the cat had been documented as an object of worship, as a deified being. This was the era of the ancient kingdom. The end of the ancient kingdom, well known for its great pyramids. Gradually, the records started to mention the goddess cat, which was called Bastet.
Few people know, but ancient Egyptians valued cats so much that they were buried only in special cemeteries and given special honors. Moreover, the mummies of these animals were found in many tombs of the pharaohs.
With the development of Egyptian civilization, the cat started playing more and more prominent role in the text of the so-called Book of the Dead. Now, here, in fact, it's not a female cat, as a creature associated with the feminine gender, but a male cat, a huge red cat that was considered the embodiment of the god Ra. And since the god Ra, the sun, does, as we know, his journey not only during the day in the sky, but also at night under the earth, and there in the darkness it must defeat a large number of enemies. Then this enemy appears here in the image of a serpent.
The cat is one of the few animals that almost hasn't changed over thousands of years of evolution. Consider it yourself. Except for their size, 5,000 years ago, all representatives of the feline family looked the same as today. But what is most important is that, while retaining their wild character and behavior, cats are very different from all other animals that have been domesticated by humans. Take, for example, dogs. Because of the strict selection, used to be wolves obeyed man, becoming ideal watchdogs and shepherds. Not only did domesticated cats fail to drastically improve their owners' lives, but they also didn't allow people to change their predatory nature. This, according to zoologists, indicates a high mental ability of cats.
The level of intellectual development of the cat hasn't been assessed yet. What I mean is that if there's a certain scale, experiments have been conducted on monkeys, on dolphins, on dogs, on crows, on rats. To say how much the cat is capable precisely of rational activity is quite difficult. Nevertheless, It is trainable. It can solve problems. The only point is whether it needs it.
The best way to assess cats' intellectual capabilities is by training them. In the arena, as at the exam, you can immediately see which animals are capable of solving tasks set by humans and which are not.
I think cats are smarter than us. It is them who train us.
To make an animal do such tricks, the trainer must first be a good psychologist. After all, if the artist is not in the mood, it won't even go to the arena.
We had a kitty, Nikita. Yes, we were learning a new trick, and she didn't want to straighten her paws. And Jacob just raised his voice. A little bit, so to speak, raised his voice. She drooped itself, straightened the paws, and refused to take meat. Did so, then did this. And in the evening, she didn't want to go and work. Remember that in the morning, you'd raised your voice at me. But then, of course, she went back to work.
The training begins as soon as a kitten is 3 to 4 months old. At first, they're simply taken to the arena to get used to the territory. Then comes the time of training. Every day, new ones come here like school. Watch and remember how adult cats work.
While the kitten is growing up, we look at its abilities. Someone is jumpy, someone loves climbing, someone is afraid of heights, someone, on the contrary, isn't afraid of heights. For example, this one is afraid of heights while his brother is not. That's it. We aren't going to prepare it for any stunts at heights.
Another clear indication of cats' intellectual abilities is the fact that they've found their own special language to communicate with humans. Meowing.
Cats really have a huge range of these sounds. They have a huge number of them. Moreover, we can assume that this is actually, literally a language. A cat can communicate this way with another cat. It can talk to itself, like a person, for example, because it is nervous or excited, and this is absolutely normal.
Animal language has always interested humans. Therefore, researchers around the world thoroughly compose and analyze the sounds that animals produce in different situations, to compose a special dictionary, and finally learn to understand their neighbors on the planet. The first attempts to approach the understanding of the cat language were undertaken by Japanese zoologists. They developed a prototype of a special electronic translator that recognizes the animal's language. A microphone and radio transmitter are attached to the collar. The electronic device translates the meaning of the cat's meowing into human language, and a phrase appears on a special screen. To create this translator, scientists analyzed the sounds of 4,000 cats of different breeds. The compilation of the cat's dictionary took almost 5 years.
To understand animals, one shouldn't try to teach them your own language or imagine how a human would behave in their place. What you should do is try to observe them and pay attention to those features that they themselves offer us for communication. What I mean is the language which is typical for them. If you take and compare it with a human, it's not even a foreigner who doesn't know our language. In fact, you can compare it with an alien.
In the communication between animals and others, everything is much simpler. A single glance or a turn of the head is enough for them to understand who is in charge here. At first glance, this is an ordinary sight for training dogs, but it's not that simple. Dogs here are trained by a cat named Borzoi, which means cocky.
Now, we'll take the cat up to the dogs to check their reaction to the cat. In this case, for such work, the cat should be very calm, very adequate, not afraid of anything, especially not of dogs, and not showing them harsh aggression.
Borzoi is ideal for this job, the result of his past in the streets. Julia took him from the street when he was a 4-month-old kitten. She saved him from a dachshund chasing him around the yard. And now it is Borzoi who trains dogs.
Our task is basically to see how this dog, the one closest to us, will react. First of all, I always show my cat's bottom to the dog, because if you bring them face to face, it can cause a completely inadequate reaction from the dog. Even perhaps an attempt to snap the cat or, for example, to greet the cat very actively, so to speak, which the cat naturally won't like either.
This is the most difficult stage of training. Borzoi has to go along the backs of dogs. Look, the dogs are nervous because now they are in a position of victims, and the cat is in the position of the attacker.
But since the cat is perfectly calm, does not hiss, does not growl, even if the dog starts to mess around actively, the dog begins to perceive the cat as something that is not that dangerous, but someone that's worth respecting. And this reduces the desire to chase an unfamiliar cat in the city. And in this case, we also protect stray cats that are necessary in the city as rat eliminators.
According to statistics, more than 30 cats find themselves in the streets of Moscow every day. Some get lost, some are thrown out by owners. These stray cats, Bellis and Olivers, have one thing in common. Once, they lived a full life at a home. However, now they'll have to adjust to survive in the concrete jungle. Zoo psychologists note the behavior of lost animals is very different from the habits of their congeners born in the streets. They aren't so cunning, fast, and in a big city, they don't feel like masters, more like victims.
If the cat was brought up in the house, then after hitting the street, I'm not going to say the word is lost, no, because it's not always possible to lose it, but it often doesn't know how to use, she doesn't always understand some of the gestures and actions that others offer it. Well, other fellows in misfortune, yes, if you can say so.
To survive, these cats try to stay together, closer to food and shelter. Living in different yards, animals consider each other members of one colony. Usually, the number of animals ranges from 3 or 4 to 20 cats. Domestic cats are unlikely to survive hunting, so they've found their way to adapt to life in the streets. They've settled next to the ones who they've lived with most of their lives, humans, in the hope that they will feed them. And they are absolutely right. At the basement of multi-storied houses, in the markets, and at construction sites where these cats live, there are always those who will feel sorry for them and feed stray animals.
In the city, they live in the number and in the places where they can be fed by people. Accordingly, if the conditions are favorable, for example, if someone feeds them or there is a source of food, then of course there will be a livestock of animals, much bigger than in conditions where the entrances are blocked, for example, or they have nowhere to hide.
The most difficult thing for lost cats is to survive in the streets for the first 2 weeks. During this period, animals try to hide from people and their congeners, but they leave their shelters very rarely, only to find some food. But as soon as the cat has got used to the new environmental conditions, it will start looking for an opportunity to return to its owner.
The question is whether they will survive these 14 days in the streets, because many of our animals that have lived in an apartment, they have their claws removed, they have caps on their claws, and they have collars with bells. They become very easy prey and target. A lot of cats who, for example, live in families with dogs, they therefore are not afraid of dogs because they haven't had such an experience that the dogs offended them. They can go out and face a pack of dogs, just get run over by a car because for them, well, this is an incomprehensible story.
Most pets left without an owner are unable to survive in an aggressive urban environment. However, some cats amaze us with their wit and ability to adapt. They seem to store, in the depths of their consciousness, the whole experience of their ancestors, quickly turning from sweet kitties into wild predators. There are many stories when domestic cats left in summer houses or forgotten in other cities return to their owners. How, when they are hundreds or sometimes thousands of kilometers away, do the animals find their way home? To answer this question, zoo psychologists have an unusual experiment. The animals were closed in boxes, deprived of the opportunity to navigate, and were driven around the city for several hours. After that, they were released in a completely unfamiliar place. Surprisingly, 99% of the cats had no problem to find the right direction. Scientists explain this by the fact that cats, like birds, navigate by the geomagnetic field of the Earth, literally feeling in which direction to move. If now it was a dog in place of the cat named Borzoi, it would have injuries for sure. However, the cat lands on 4 paws with ease. These animals can remain unharmed, even when falling from the height of a 9-story building. Let's look at what happens to the cat's body during the fall. In slow motion, it is seen how the cat manages to flip in the air and align the body in relation to the ground within fractions of a second. First, it turns its head to assess where he will have to land. Then the cat turns and aligns its body in one line with the head. 4 legs are taken closer to the head and the back ones as far as possible from the body. It does all these instantly and accurately. Just before landing, the soft pads and well-developed limb muscles perform the function of a kind of shock absorber. That is, at the moment of landing, the force of impact is softened.
In addition to that, they have an insanely flexible spine and the body's abilities. Virtually every part of the body can move relatively to the other, however it wants. They don't have clavicles. It is very important. Clavicles are the bones which actually attach the shoulders, and naturally, when falling from a height, the first thing that suffers is this thin clavicle. Cats have only rudimentary clavicles. In fact, their front legs are not connected here except with the muscles. The cat can reduce its speed with its paws, jumping from a huge height.
For special qualities, cats have been attributed unusual abilities for many centuries. Cats apprehend natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and floods. In ancient times, dwellers of cities located near active volcanoes watched the behavior of cats, and if the animals left the house, it meant that people were not safe to stay. Still today, people living in seismic regions closely monitor the behavior of their pets, who have repeatedly saved their lives. There are many recorded cases when cats, apprehending an earthquake, woke their owners with loud meowing, and they managed to run out into the street just minutes before the disaster.
Cats have a very well-developed vestibular apparatus, which means that they are very sensitive to pressure changes, and, for example, they can hear sounds at a very, very long distance.
During World War I, cats were kept in trenches so that they could warn of a gas attack in advance. And during World War II, they were taken aboard submarines as live detectors of air composition.
There are many well-known cases when cats, for example, saved whole families in the war, signaling people to go out of houses, of buildings before bombing. And this is known because animals easily connect the presence of some distant sound and the consequences. Imagine it can hear, and we cannot, the sound that the airplanes make at a great distance, because this is a certain fluctuation of air, and these are certain sounds that may not be available to our ears.
However, today not all cats have qualities that, until recently, have allowed them to survive in the most difficult conditions. And this is all because humans decided to interfere with the nature of these animals, depriving them of their main advantage, independence. Scientists have studied the genome of cats and found out specially bred domestic animals are, at a genetic level, different from congeners living in the wild. Domestic cats were found to have an increased number of so-called genes about domestication, responsible for gentleness and obedience. Here you can find the best representatives of pedigree cats: lop-eared, bald, and even multi-fingered. As a result of breeding by humans, every year there are several new breeds in the world. Millions of years of evolution haven't changed the cat so much as we have in just a few decades.
This could affect the temperament and the degree, the level of sociability. There are cats that are actually chatterboxes. They walk and they meow, meow, meow after a man. They demand, they impose themselves. The man would be glad to communicate with them, but he's talking on the phone, for example, or cooking, and it will rub, purr in my ear all the time, murmur. Well, there are cats that are phlegmatic. They sleep. There are cats that are soft and bend everywhere. Well, it's all made, yes, with the help of a human.
Most of these cats have never hunted, and they observe the street life only through the grid of their pet carrier. These animals are 100% bred for living with man, and alone they would die.
The problem is that people don't understand cats anymore. We've locked them in apartments. For them, it's absolutely not a normal state to live in such a closed space. In an apartment where people constantly move, where there are household items in a very small space, the cat most often doesn't feel safe for one simple reason. People have forgotten that cats live in a three-dimensional world and not in a two-dimensional world. They need to have heights. If the cat does not have a place where it can sit somewhere high safely, if from there it cannot watch what's happening, if it doesn't have quiet, secluded corners, dark, where the hand will not go, for example, there, yes, in a wardrobe, somewhere in the clothes where the cat can hide, the cat doesn't feel very comfortable.
It turns out that having domesticated cats, have humans eventually made them vulnerable. Perhaps that's why wild animals value their freedom and independence.
In the winter of 2014, the stray cat Mashka, who lives in one of the entrance halls in Obninsk, became a star of all Russian television channels. It saved a 2-month-old baby. For several hours, the cat kept the child warm with her body while she was lying on her in the box. Then she began to meow loudly. The neighbors who came to the hall found the baby and called the doctors. The child was rescued, and the cat Mashka became a local star. It looks like everybody dreams of becoming its owner. However, the stray cat Mashka keeps living in the entrance hall, preferring to be free. It turns out that not every cat needs an owner.
If the animal comes to the house from the street as a small kitten or a youngster kitten, the chances for its adaptation are much higher than for an adult animal that have their own characters, their habits, which may well be due to the state of health, yes, or just found themselves in an apartment.
For most stray animals, the city is their home. Therefore, taking up a cat for re-education, it is necessary to remember that it was born in the streets, and at any time it may want to return.
It's very often that the animal is taken, vaccinated, castrated, it's staying at home, and then people leave for the country house in the summer, and even not being released, the animal still goes to freedom.
Zoo psychologists argue the owner is not able to influence the decision of the cat to go and live in the streets. Even if a human takes the animal back, it will find a way to escape again.
The cat, if you remember how it should live, has a huge territory. There it knows everything. It constantly explores this territory, constantly moves. It has secluded places where it can sleep, where no one will touch it. And there are places where it will definitely catch prey. Yes, there it will snap it. And there are places where it simply, for example, rests, washes there, drinks water. And all these places should be safe for the cat.
And only in a situation when a stray cat is on the verge between life and death is it ready to give up its independence. This is Anfisa. She was born and grew up in the streets. There, she probably would have died if it were not for an accidental encounter with a human whose feet the cat literally threw herself under.
We got it somewhere about 6 years ago. Our general producer brought it. Found it on a cold November evening. He brought it in the office in his coat. He was pregnant.
Natalia is an employee in an office and part-time nurse of cats. She shares responsibilities of caring for office cats with her colleagues and is very happy with this neighborhood.
I was delighted when I sort of realized that they have cats living in the office, that they're among us, and that they are coming, so you can take it up, stroke it, something like some sort of a cat therapy, you know?
Pet therapy or zoo therapy. This concept entered our life after scientists found out animals are able to affect the human body, improving not only the psychological, but the physical state as well. Modern computer equipment, a plastic box, a cat with super sensitive sensors, and a person stroking it. That's how scientists around the world are studying the purring of cats. There is a theory that purring is soothing for the human nervous system, especially children.
For many children who have problems with the motor system, or some problems with mental development, or some problems with communication skills, that is. For example, some degree of autism, then the communication with animals often relaxes them. Relaxes, makes it possible to feel more at ease, and often, by the way, can even restore some movements. Because the animal, it is very soft and warm, mobile, it pushes, it allows you to touch it.
Communication with cats is the main item on the menu here. While a couple of the most curious cats sniff visitors at the entrance, the others look down at everything that is happening. When the waitresses offer coffee with cookies, the inhabitants of the cafe will certainly help you.
Unlike us, cats give a much larger role in the communication to gestures. In fact, they have developed not the language of words, if one can say so, but the body language. If the cat is relaxed, its eyes are open, its ears stand upright, the tail is calm, no matter if it is lowered or raised, but the main thing is that it is calm. The animal can stretch, can move relaxed, and this means that it is in a good mood, that it can communicate, that it is interesting to her. And the main thing is that it's not afraid of anything.
Here, there are cats of different breeds and colors, each with its own character, tastes, habits, and lifestyle. Some of them will play with you. Some of them will let you stroke them. And some will look down at it.
The day starts at 9 a.m. for them, the working day, that is. Our girls come and open their cages where they spend the night. And this is also a prerequisite for them to rest in these separate kennels. from each other, from guests, from communication. And at 9 o'clock, they go out, help get the girls clean, and then meet the guests. If they get tired, they can go to the cat cafe and relax there. Climb into our numerous shelves.
From the cat's point of view, everything is thought through here to the last detail. Scratching post, high shelves where it is convenient to hide, and the number of multicolored mice gives dance to the eyes. Everything for cats is the policy of the founders of the cafe. If a cat is satisfied, then more visitors will have cat therapy.
These are their cages where they spend the night. It's somewhere from 11 p.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning to have the opportunity to rest from each other, from the guests, to sleep normally. Everyone has its own cage. Some have a smaller one, and in each cage there's a hammock. They like them very much. The trays, the water, and the food. Whatever is necessary for the cat at night.
Even in a metropolis, living among people, cats have managed to maintain their independence. Like thousands of years ago, they divide the territory, hunt, grow up, raise offspring, and still do not particularly need a human. People will have to accept it. We will never turn cats into loyal servants as we did with dogs. But perhaps that is why they are so interesting to us and precious. This is Sonia. Sonia was born in Moscow and has lived here all her life. She's gotten used to the fuss and bustle of the metropolis, and it feels like home. Sonia is an ordinary stray dog, one of the thousands living in the city. There are 500 million dogs living on the planet. This number is more or less the same as the population of Russia, the United States, and Spain together. Nearly 400 million of these dogs are homeless, just like Sonia. Dogs have been living next to people for almost 100,000 years. They adapt to constant changes happening in our lives so quickly that we've even stopped to be amazed by it. We've gotten accustomed to having them nearby and take their being so quick on the uptake for granted. No other animal has such significance in people's life. Not surprisingly, it was dogs who were the first even to travel to space. August 1960. The mongrels Belka and Strelka are setting off for space. They are the first astronauts. Long before the spaceflight of Yuri Gagarin, 11 Soviet mongrels made space flights. The first crews of astronauts were literally hand-picked in the back streets. Homeless and not purebred dogs were chosen for a reason. Such dogs, from the very first days of their lives, have to fight for life. Those who are the strongest survive. As a result, mongrels are much sturdier than their pedigree congeners. Moreover, they adapt to any, even the most unusual conditions, very quickly. Having orbited the Earth 18 times, Belka and Strelka, as you can see, returned to their owners safe and sound. Moreover, a few months after returning from the mission, Strelka even had 6 perfectly healthy puppies, one of which, by the way, was presented to the U.S. President's wife, Jacqueline Kennedy. The modern metropolis is, of course, not a near-Earth orbit, but it also requires incredible strength and stamina from its inhabitants. Crazy traffic, intricate routes of passenger transport, a dense stream of people. However, dogs seem to feel quite confident in this concrete jungle. The most important thing is that you can always get some food here. In 1990, the number of homeless dogs in Moscow was as high as ever. There wasn't enough food for everyone, though. The garbage bins were controlled by the strongest ones. The rest had to adapt. The smart ones found a solution quickly. They mastered begging, being no less successful than professional beggars. Today, they lie in front of shops and near pedestrian crossings. They wave their tails and lie in wait for compassionate city dwellers.
Come here, my sweetie. Come, yeah, come here. You like it. Yeah, you like it. There is a word, hedonism. It's a desire to experience pleasant sensations. It's natural for any living being. If a creature, for some reason, doesn't want to experience pleasant things, it either has already died or will soon die. There are no other options. And the second explanation is that any living being seeks to minimize the use of resources. That is, spending as little energy as possible to get as much as possible.
So did wolves. Once they realized this simple truth too, about 100,000 years ago, they made a discovery. It was easier to eat leftovers from people's tables than to hunt. It is believed that it was picking up leftovers that a chain of genetic changes began from, changes that eventually turned a wolf into a dog.
They began to gather around primitive people's camps and warn them of predators approaching the camp by barking. People realized that wolves were wonderful watchdogs and could be used as guards. And from that time on, they started to feed them so that they moved around with them. Gradually, the relationship between a dog and a man grew into a partnership, and people realized that dogs could go hunting with them and follow them everywhere.
Take a closer look at the animals in this open-air kennel. Don't you notice anything unusual? And you are actually looking into the past of modern urban dogs. Dozens of thousands of years into the past, when the dog was still a wolf and the wolf had not yet become a dog.
Girls, good, very good. Stop that. Girls, good. Stop that. Come on. Sit. Girls, sit. Rada. Chili. Leap. Good girls. Shake. Rada. Good girl. A wolf dog. Chili. They are the first generation of wolf dogs. A husky and a wolf crossbreed. And a West Siberian Laika and a wolf hybrid. Look at us. Settle. Sit. She's protecting her territory, isn't she? Good girl.
Rada and Chili are wolf dogs, hybrids of a wolf and dog. Their fathers are purebred wolves. Wolf dogs have very strong instincts, which have become less acute in urban dogs. Hybrids have a much more developed scent, intelligence, and stamina. By the way, the famous hero of the book by Jack London, White Fang, was actually a wolf dog.
Look here, they are crossbreeds. The ones in the middle are of the second generation of wolf dogs, and the ones on the sides are wolf cubs, or a high-content hybrid of a wolf and a dog. The difference is that, look here, wolf cubs have thicker hair, a longer snout, and here, the muzzles are shorter, the hair is smoother. That's it. The puppies are calm, socialized, active. They like exploring the territory. Excellent sense of smell. And now they are eating milk with meat. This is their diet after they are 3 weeks old. Puppies run actively, but they also come up to you very well.
Unlike a wolf, wolf dogs can be trained. The animals of this breed are even used to protect the borders of Russia with China and Mongolia.
Wolf dogs are, of course, serious dogs for government services, and they are recommended for military units and search operations.
On the example of wolf dogs, you can easily see the fundamental differences between the dog and the wolf. Despite the fact that hybrids can be trained and are able to live in the city, they often retain the quality very important for the wolf: neophobia, the fear of everything new.
One of the dog's features is neophilia. They tend to love everything new. That is, even if the dog is frightened and has shied away from an open umbrella, its next step is to approach it and sniff it. And what is it? Can you eat it? Is it alive? Inanimate? They want to find out its qualities. For a wolf, it is quite common to be frightened of everything that is unfamiliar. It is thanks to this quality that it survives in the wild. There are many stories of how people protect the herds of animals. For example, the easiest way was to hang balloons on the branches of the trees around the herd. Even when they burst, their fragments were still hanging, and wolves didn't come up to the herd sometimes for several months. Though you would think there's just a fragment of dangling rubber at a sufficiently large distance.
Let's do a little experiment. Let's see how the wolf dog Chili will react to the balloon. Will she be able to cope with her fears?
No dog, except very shy, non-socialized ones or the ones who have mental health problems, isn't afraid of a balloon after it has been inflated. That is, many are frightened when the balloon is being inflated. They step back, look with their eyes wide open, and after that it's interesting to sniff it. What is it? Now let's see how our beauty will react. What's this? Chili? Chili? Look, a balloon. It takes her a really long time to decide what to do with this thing and how to react to it all. As you can see, here it is. There's a clear reaction of avoidance.
The wolf dog's reaction to the other objects offered to her, a ball and an umbrella, was the same caution. For the hybrid of a dog and a wolf to be socialized and not to grow shy and unsociable, puppies should be taken away from their mom at a proper time and taught to be comfortable with human society. Many people believe that those who used to have a home abandoned or lost animals end up in packs of stray dogs. Is this true? This is a routine morning walk at the Sheremetyevo dog shelter. Animals that used to have homes, but for some reason found themselves in the streets, end up here. There are only 220 dogs here. Most of them belong to fighting breeds and guard dogs. You might think, such a serious animal like this one can survive anywhere. However, zoologists insist that dogs raised in captivity survive very rarely on the streets. If within a week such dogs are not picked up by people, their fate is predetermined almost for sure. And it doesn't matter whether it's a toy terrier or a fighting dog. It's even more difficult for the latter ones.
No, these dogs never survive. These dogs are 100% sentenced to death. That's what I think. It's just a shelter for those sentenced to death that we have here. Well, first of all, in winter, one night in sub-zero temperatures and the dog is no more. It doesn't have any fur. It's an absolutely naked dog. This dog was created by people for living inside, in a house. And what can I say about, for example, about not very cold season? Such dogs don't survive either. Everyone is dead, scared of them. They think that that's a killer dog. Such a halo of horror has been created around them.
The problem doesn't only lie in the fear of people or cold intolerance. Humans, in the selection process, has done everything for animals to be simply not able to adapt to a life among others of their own species. Even if the dog manages to somehow be accepted by a pack of stray dogs, it certainly won't stay there for long.
Because if there is somebody picking on them there, they'll certainly strike back, and the pack can simply tear the dog to pieces. They're all covered in scars. We take them to the shelter in terrible condition. Then if the pack is being fed, they don't let him get close to the food. What I mean is that they seem to be all together as a pack, and he's on his own. And of course, he virtually dies of exhaustion, so he must be fed separately. So these dogs never survive in packs.
This dog is called Fox. He's had a new home for a month now. but he still visits the shelter every week for a session with a canine handler. The dog is trained to obey his new master, and the master, in turn, learns how to control the dog.
A family, just like a pack, must have a leader, an alpha male. So in a family, a man is a leader and a dog must obey him. What I mean by obeying is to listen, to respond to his commands. If a dog doesn't react to commands, a man has to train it.
The dogs didn't respond to commands very well, almost didn't obey. We had to go to the training site to train. Yes, he's still trying to establish his dominance, trying to sleep on the couch, which we do not allow. We train him with the help of delicious treats. Now he obeys better and better, without any aggression, only kindness, but being strict.
Such a relationship between the owner and the dog, when obedience is sought through requests and not threats, is called a system of flexible hierarchy. It's exactly the same relationship we can see in a common dog pack, contrary to the widespread belief that the alpha rigidly subordinates all other members of the pack.
There is such a theory, the theory of domination. It is still very actively promoted, though it was developed by mistake, watching packs of wolves and dogs in confined conditions like kennels, cages, and zoos. And because of this, well, who is placed there? There were animals there collected from all over the world. A wolf from here, a wolf from there, a wolf from here and there, and when teenagers or puppies gather together in one place, how else other than by testing their strength can they figure out which of them is the alpha one? People looked at it and thought that's probably the way it is in life. And then when researchers began to study the life of stray dogs, it turned out that the dog's pack is organized exactly like a human family. Yes, there's an authority, the one in charge. Usually it's the father. The mother, well, she's the wife. She does the cooking, housekeeping, and the man tries not to interfere with this. In the case of dog's family, we see almost the same. The female does its things, and it looks at how puppies communicate with each other. It educates them.
In fact, there is a strict system of prohibitions in the pack, but their number is very limited. Basically, this limits to causing harm to each other, well, and of course, claims for the alpha's female. In addition, the pack often expels unnecessarily aggressive individuals. Apart from that, peace and division of duties.
One is good at finding the praise trail, the second is a magnificent beater. The third, for example, knows how to defend, and if something happens, yes, he's strong, he's brave, he's not afraid to stand up for the pack together with the alpha if necessary.